Hey, this is Kyle Crawford from Strong Dads. Strong Dads wants to thank Crimer Beer House for sponsoring today's Strong Dads podcast. The beer house was started in 1982 by the Crimer family. Since that time, they have become a Cincinnati favorite. If you're looking for an incredible meal and an incredible setting, you have to try Crimer's Beer House down on Route 128 in Cleves, Ohio. All right. Hey, guys, what's going on? Welcome back to Strong Dads here with Merle. Merle, how you doing today?
Oh, man, I am good, man.
Yeah?
It's good. It's, at least the day that we're recording this thing, it's nice out.
That's right, yeah.
It's a little cooler today.
I know. I think this whole week's going to be cooler.
I went for a bike ride this morning, met up with a guy, and we kicked each other's butt. It was good.
I was going to say, last week I think you said you rode some bike too. You getting back into it?
Yeah. Well, I've never really left it. I just wasn't doing as much of it. And so,
I'll say that too, Merle.
Yeah. So it was good. And, usually I'm not a morning workout guy at all. I know everybody says, oh, get your workout in the morning. I'm a personal trainer and everything else, but I got to tell you, morning workouts just kind of suck.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. There's a certain age where you get out and it takes an hour just to lube all the joints to get. And I'm like, so I'm supposed to go for a ride. Like the idea of running in the morning. Nah, that's no. Yeah. It's just it hurts so bad. Yeah. It's not worth it.
Sleep is so much better. Just need that more.
You're supposed to challenge me, not take me down to your level.
Talking about, Merle? Get out there and do something. Yes, well that's good stuff, man. I hope you guys are having a good week, and we're excited to come back and bring you guys another show. I think today's going to be it's going to be fun.
This is a little come to Jesus meeting
we're going to have
today.
A come to Jesus meeting.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be good. I hope we get some good takeaways from it. Today we're going to kind of dive into the idea. It's just time to grow up a little bit. And you put boy here. I'm gonna say it's time to grow up, little girl. It's time to get going. So I think it'll be a good show.
Well, you're probably going to get all kinds of hate mail and stuff now for like, what, are girls inferior or something or what? But it's like,
well, see, that's good. I don't have an email. You'll get them all.
Right. You can't even use the word sissy anymore. You're such a sissy.
I know, you can't say that.
But the bottom line is, hey boys, it's time to grow up.
Yeah,
it's time to grow up, and we're going to have a little bit of fun with that because obviously every show we do, we're always talking to ourselves as well as anybody that might want to listen.
Very true.
So anyway, that's kind of what this show is going to be about, and there's a reason for it because. Our lack of growing up, and we'll have to define that as we walk through the conversation, has really been pretty costly.
Right.
It's been costly on a lot of different levels, and so I think that's why it's important that we start to go through this conversation. But before we get too into it, let's play Boyhood for a while.
All right,
let's play Boyhood. So if you were not married,
oh boy,
all right, no kids,
wow,
and you could kind of just do your thing. What would that look like?
I'd be a lot better at golf. When we kind of brainstorming about this idea, like, man, this is hard to think about. Jenny and I have now been married for 10 years. So if I rewind the time clock there and kind of put myself in my old shoes, yes, my golf game probably actually really would be a lot better. I would probably have a lot more money. And it's crazy because now my schedule, before we got married, I was working 3 part-time jobs, working 80 plus hours a week, between 3 different fire departments. And if I were to take that time and pre-marriage, pre-kids, and still be working those jobs, I'd be working probably a lot more just because I wouldn't have anything to come home to. But if I were to take my current schedule, working about 96 days a year, being single and no kids.
You really should not say that.
I shouldn't say that?
No,
okay.
You shouldn't say that. No.
I would. That's kind of the crazy thing when you get married and have kids. Like, it's all about them and kind of your time is spent on them. So I'd be a lot more self-centered and I know my buddies are getting ready to go to go see Mount Rushmore, and I'd be like, oh yeah, heck yeah, let's do that. And as much as I hate traveling, but I would think myself, no kids, no wife, I would just pick up and go and do whatever. You know, I kind of
would you spend money on anything differently than you do now, since you'd have a little bit more money and you really wouldn't care? Like, would you buy any certain toys or?
Oh, that absolutely, yeah. So I'm really into woodworking now. So there's you know these
That's
really,
such an old man hobby.
I know it
you know?
is, but I
mean, I love it, but it's an old man hobby.
I would have the latest greatest golf clubs, and I would have a lot more toys, woodworking toys. You know, I'm in the process of getting ready to start building a detached garage, and that would have happened 10 years ago had I not married and had kids. So yeah, it would be more all about me and what I want, and kind of exactly those toys. I would definitely partake in a lot more of those. So what about you, Merle? Now that we're done ragging on me.
So yeah, I would. I have no problem gravitating towards the self-centered part of me. That is not a brag or a compliment to me, right? I think it's one of those things that we try to keep in check and be aware of all the time, and I think that's part of the growing process. But yeah, I mean, if it was just me, I like things with wheels. Yeah. I like racing bikes, like pedal bikes. I like motorcycles. Yeah. I like trucks. I like to explore different things, like adventure kind of trips. Sure. So like my idea of a vacation is not necessarily, I'll go to the beach and kind of lay out, but that's not my deal. Yeah. I would like, oh, man, let's go out to the mountains. Let's go around water somewhere in terms of actually doing something kind of adventurous with it. So, I would be all about that. And you're right, like with the toys, I wouldn't just have a bike. I would have.
You'd have one for every day of the week.
Because you know there's a bike for this and a bike for that. I would have a motorcycle. I would have a motorcycle for this and for that, and of which right now I don't even own a motorcycle. Okay. So it would just be it would be all about me, so self-absorbed, and somehow in my pea brain I would somehow think that was cool. Yeah. That would be the scary part. Like, I got it made, So that would be a big part of that. Yeah.
Well, isn't that crazy too? Because, and I think this kind of really goes into our topic for the day. The idea of being self-centered and all about me, that's something I think naturally you're born into. I mean, think about babies and how much it's all about them. And then I think as you progress and hopefully mature and get married and have kids, that idea that it's a learned behavior. You have to learn to give up your time and sacrifice your time and what you want for the better good of your family. And I think that's kind of will hopefully be something we get out of this show.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting because as a kid, I had 5 brothers and sisters. My dad worked, mom, everybody, the whole family unit, trying to keep that together. And there was a guy at the end of our street when I was growing up, and he always had like the latest Corvette. Yeah. Okay. He always had, and he was about my dad's age, so I think. And he would go flying up the street, and I would, as a kid, be like, "Dad, look at his vet," And I remember my dad. Now he might have been saying this out of jealousy or whatever, be like, "He's nothing but a playboy." Nothing but. And I was a kid. I was like, I didn't get what that meant at all. And now, as you're older and you understand what playboy, what the whole idea of playboy is about. It's like, he's a boy that just wants to play, whether it's with toys or women or money. He just wants to play. Yeah. And we're going to talk today. There's a time and place for play, right? Yeah. So this show is not about sucking the fun out of your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's not going to be about that. But it's going to be a little bit more about like, what would it look like? What would I look like? What is our challenge to the guys? Because ultimately the cost of us being a playboy, while we happen to bring kids into the world, what the cost is to that family as well as our society. We better do some ads though.
We should.
Playing.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely. The Strong Dads podcast today. We'd love to thank Kramer's Beer House for coming alongside of us and sponsoring today's show. The Beer House was started in 1982 by the Kramer family, and definitely since that time they've become a Cincinnati favorite. So if you're looking for an incredible meal in an incredible setting, definitely go down to Route 128 in Cleves and check out the Kramer's Beer House.
All right, very good. So we also would like to thank Mansfield Insurance Agency, located in Bright, Indiana, for sponsoring today's Strong Dads podcast. Established in 1981, the Mansfield Insurance Agency has been dedicated to the individuals and businesses in Bright, Indiana, but serving clients in Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky. So for all your insurance needs, contact Mansfield Insurance. Okay, so let's circle back around. Why this topic? Why is it something that we should be a little bit more mindful of, critical of, that we have men that want to play? Why should we?
Yeah, that's again, the idea of having a playboy, having that mindset. I think they're definitely, just like you were saying, Merle, there's a time and a place. But it's also that idea that we need to circle back around and realize that in our house, in our household, if you are married, if you do have kids, there's going to be a cost for that. And we have to really, that's where we weigh those pros and the cons. Is it worth, me going and playing golf every day of the week, which I would love to do? Is that worth sacrificing time away from my kids? That's going to be kind of a conversation you have to have with yourself, because again, it has a cost, and we have to evaluate what is that cost going to affect. How is that going to affect my kids and my wife, my relationship with my wife? So
yeah, I mean that's the cost is right. I mean, one of the things working in the elementary school and working with families. Just to put it bluntly, divorce sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks, and I've said this before as we've had conversation. I mean, I know it sucks, right? We all know it sucks, but when you actually work with people that are in that situation and you see the long-term effect that it has on kids and the adults even, okay, you start to go, wow. This is could we have done it a better or different way? And so I think it's really important that we understand, what is it to be a playboy? And one of the things that we understand is it's all about selfishness and immaturity.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? In every divorce case I've ever worked with, I see selfishness and immaturity. It might be on one person's part, it might be on both people's
Absolutely.
part. But those behaviors, those characteristic traits are at the root of this evil.
Yeah, and that goes to that idea that, just what I was saying at the beginning of the show, the idea that it is a learned behavior and a learned concept to realize that it's not about you.
Yes, it is.
And that's something that in a lot of cases that's why divorces happen. Just like saying, immaturity happens, and that's kind of at the core of a lot of divorces, if not every divorce. That idea that the man or the woman or both haven't really fully wrapped their mind around the idea that it's not about you. You play a great role in the family, but that idea that if we don't get out of that boyish idea, that idea that it's time to grow up, it's time to realize that as much fun as it'd be to go and tinker on the car all day long, as much as it'd be fun to go hiking all day long and seek those adventures, that there's got to be a time and a place for that, and it can't be every time in every place.
Yeah, and one of the things that I think we excuse in our mind, that when a family is broken up due to the playboy behavior, we sort of excuse ourselves by, we watch how the kids are doing, and finally when the kids are starting to laugh and play a little bit and the tears have been wiped away, we go, see, my kids got through this just fine. And I'm here to tell you, no. All right? And they will heal in the temporary to at least be able to smile again, okay? But the generational impact has completely now impacted how they think about marriage and family, how they will deal with relationships when they get to the point of having relationships, how their integrity within their own marriage will be different.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you go, oh well, I got divorced, my kids are okay. I'm going to just question that, okay?
Sure.
And again, we're not here to bash the divorce. We're trying to actually strengthen people to realize why we would want to avoid that, and how it is, and challenging the men to know their part in this. This is not a strictly man problem,
right?
But we do realize that men have a huge impact in how this marriage is going to run,
right? And we also need to realize that men, not in all cases, but I think majority of the time, men need to realize that they have a leadership role.
Oh man,
and that leadership role is part of that being so impactful in the family. Because again, if you fall into the idea that you are a playboy and you're married and you have kids, that idea that if you constantly fall into that, your kids are going to fall into that as they progress, and they're never going to realize, and it's never going to be a learned behavior for them, that idea of sacrifice. Same thing with your wife. If it's constantly, I'm going golfing and I'm going to do my own thing, well, naturally your wife is going to follow suit, and they're going to do their own thing. And that's, I think in rock style families, when Linda talks about that slow fade, that idea of that if you constantly do your own thing, your wife constantly do their own thing, your kids are doing their own thing, that idea that naturally things are going to fall and they're going to separate, and it's going to be a natural thing that's going to happen. So it's just that you have to have a decision you make in your marriage that you're not going to fall into that you're going to, again, realize what the cost is of you falling into that behavior of constantly doing your own thing, your wife doing her thing. You're naturally going to have a constant, that fade away from each other.
I want to circle back around to the leadership part. Men have a huge leadership role that many times they've lost their bearings on understanding where they're leading to. And you brought up a great point about that slow fade. If the male is the primary selfish one initially, like he's doing his own thing, all right, and he doesn't have an expectation that everybody should be coming together and working, the next one that follows will typically be the mom, So the dad will start it, the mom, and then here's how I can always tell. The kids are out doing their own thing. They watch TV in their own rooms. Yeah. Right? They have their own TVs, they have their own screens, and they can live in their selfish world. And that's really the point of what it is to be a boy.
Yeah.
It's based in the selfishness. And I think it's really important that we talk to our dads and say, hey, wait, you're the leader of this, dude. Yeah. You're the leader. If you have a selfish house, it's because you have not pulled the reins in on that, probably first with yourself, and then it trickled out through your family.
Yeah. And I know for sure in rock solid families, you guys have talked about the idea of doing dinner together.
Yeah.
And such a small thing, but again, it just kind of centers everything back to it's about us together, prioritizing that time to spend together. So if it's not something that you currently do in your house, I would really just kind of recommend or kind of just talking to a man-to-man, like that's something you should do, because again, that idea that yes, you can have your own time, your wife can have her own time, but that idea that you come back together in the evening and you're having time, a meal together, and I think statistics would show that it greatly benefits your kids, benefits your marriage to have that time together. I know in my house that's something Jenny is huge on. Like we have dinner together, and that's big because again, I do my own thing sometimes during the day, my wife, and we're not knocking that. We would never knock those times. Like, I think it's very good to have your own time, have time away from each other, that kind of refueling time. Jenny and I just got back from a trip together. Like, we spent away from our kids. But, man, it was so good. Like, we had time, even in that. Like, I went to the pool one day and Jenny went to the beach. Like, we were able to spend time away from each other and kind of, like, rebuild and refuel our own personal self. But that idea that we come back together, I think is so, so important.
Yeah, and making it the priority, like understanding why you do it. And I think that's the important. Sometimes we just drop the whole thought of its importance and we just do our own thing, and all of a sudden days, months, and years pass by and we wonder why we're adrift and why the family is adrift. And so it's important that we understand that we've got to drop our selfishness and we have to build into each other. We have to be accountable to each other. So let's talk about some things that will help our guys, all of our strong dads out there, that will help them either identify whether they are kind of stuck in the selfish side, or things that they can start doing that indicate, hey, I'm growing in this area. And by the way, we are all growing in this area. So let's not get too crazy on this. But I came across this article. This is a good article. It says 25 signs of maturity. How mature are you?
I could probably come up with a couple more.
Yeah, I know. And we're not going to go through all 25, but this was written by Donna Levy, And this was actually written back in 2015, but as I went through it, I was like, man, these are just spot on.
Yeah.
They're spot on. So why don't you hit a couple for us?
Yeah, it was crazy. As I was reading this, it talks about the idea of listening more and talking less. And man, this just jumped out at me because the crazy thing is, as we're recording this on a Wednesday. On Tuesday, I have my men's small group. I have a group of guys that we sit around and we do life together. And we dove into James 3 last night. And it's crazy because it's so fitting to exactly what this is talking about. James 3 talks a lot about how our tongue can get us in trouble.
Tame the tongue,
yeah,
baby.
and different translations, talk about the tongue is like a fire, like how much trouble it can really get us in.
Yeah.
And it's so true. I don't know about you guys, but I have a tendency to say a lot of stupid things.
Let's just go.
And just that idea that if the goal in this is to mature and develop as a man, we got to learn to tame that tongue. I'm as guilty as any out there because my girls. I've talked about this before. My girls, they see exactly how I talk to Jenny, and when I'm talking to Jenny, if all I'm doing is all I'm doing is talking. How kind of degrading is that to Jenny that I don't even allow her to talk sometimes, and then when she does talk, instead of sitting there listening, I'm quick to jump in there with my viewpoints on stuff. Where if I would just spend time, let her do the talking and listen, because a lot of times I know I've called you and talked your ear off. Just that idea that we should be willing to listen. And what a powerful, powerful thing that is. I remember, as I kind of grew up and developed into my faith, someone that mentored me, he talked about that his girlfriend at the time, she had a I think it was at the time one of her parents had passed away or was in the hospital, and he just spent that time he went up there and said, I'm not going to say anything. You just talk.
Yeah.
Just talk, and I'll be here. I'll be that listening ear for you. And I think a lot of ways, there's so many people that want that, and it takes a mature person, a mature man, to actually realize, okay, I'm going to take a step back. I'm not going to be the one to try and give advice and talk here. I'm just going to listen.
Yeah.
And how powerful that can be for you and your family.
Yeah. What we say around our house? Shut your hole, right? Shut your hole. I think there's a point on here is a mature man is one who realizes how much they don't know. I think in our insecurity, I have a child in my house right now, and God love him, and I love him, but he thinks he knows all, okay? And he happens to be the youngest child in our house, and we love him to death, but he's so quick with a word. He's so quick with a solution for everyone, even though, most of the times he gives a solution, and everyone in the house kind of rolls their eyes in their head like, did you even think about what you just said?
Right.
And so part of what we're trying to teach him is, hold your word. Yeah. Hold your word. Because you thinking you have the answer to everything is just a sign of your own insecurity of wanting to feel like you can exert yourself into other people's lives. And that indicates an insecurity into him. And we're trying to get him to realize, no, just be quiet. Let it roll. Let other people have solutions. They can offer those kinds of things. So realizing what you don't know is one of the big steps.
Right.
And the way that you do that is exactly what you just said. Shut up and listen. Right? Just listen more, talk less.
And I think it's hard for men because I think it's almost ingrained in us to try and come up with solutions.
We're the fixers,
and fix the problem.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think sometimes people don't necessarily want solutions. They just want to talk to, I want to vent a little bit, and I just need you to sit there and listen. I don't need you to come up with a solution for me. Just what you were saying. It's just we have to be slow to speak. So it's slow to speak, and that's why, what do they say? God gave you one mouth and two ears.
2 ears.
So, and I think there's a lot of truth to that. There's a reason for that. We should be willing to listen. And as we kind of move down here, another point that kind of jumped out at me, that idea that we need to learn to take responsibility and for your own health and happiness, and not relying on others to fix or you placing the blame on other people. And again, it's something that just jumped out. We talked last night in my small group, the idea that Peter in Scripture, he saw himself, I'm the biggest sinner. Like if we start to walk and mature in our relationship with our family and with our relationship with Christ, like that idea, I'm the biggest sinner, that you have problems, you know, your wife has issues that she's dealing with, your kids are gonna fall short all the time. But if you constantly look at yourself and say, I'm the biggest, I'm the one that's all at fault, regardless if you are at fault all the time, that if you start to realize and look in the mirror and say, I'm the biggest sinner in this house, man, it changes the perspective so much. And I'm less than 24 hours from hearing that for the first time, and it still sinks in. Just, I'm the biggest sinner in my house.
Yeah.
And if you carry yourself that way, if you go into your maturity in your faith and your maturity as a man, that idea that you are the biggest person at fault in any situation. Again, not to take blame away from other people, that there's fault that everyone could take on, but just that idea that I'm the biggest reason there's issue going on.
You know, the cool thing that does is it takes away your defensiveness.
Yeah.
Like, you know, immature guys are very defensive. They don't want to own things. They create excuses and blames on everything. And so when you say, you know what, I am flawed.
Yeah.
I am flawed. I am the sinner. Okay.
Yep.
To be able to throw your hands up that way is really, man, what a great message to your kids and to your wife. Like, and this, it needs to be done authentically. Like, if I'm doing it just to kind of self-deprecate, just like, oh, I'm a loser. No, that's another form of being a wuss, you know? And so we're talking about the idea of going, no, you know what? Just own what you need to own here, and stop with any, you know, hiding behind blames and excuses, because that is when we are still dealing with a boy. Yeah. Right? So great point there. How about the idea of, you know, when we have maturity, we start to actually have a compassion and empathy for somebody else's situation. Man, this is tough.
Oh.
This is tough, right?
Yep.
Like, the idea that I can slow my mind down enough that I see somebody in a not so good situation, and I actually, one, don't try to fix it, and two, try to see it through their eyes. A boy can't do that. No, I shouldn't say most boys can't do that. Right. There are some boys who can, like, oh man, I feel bad for you, okay? But for the most part, they're like, sorry about your luck, whoom, go flying right by, okay? Yeah. And so part of the maturity is going, okay, I need to see other people where they are. If I'm going to be instrumental at all in helping anybody in my family, anybody at my workplace, I've got to see where people are. Yep. And, you know, not where I want them to be, or not where I think they should be, but seeing people where they are. That all of a sudden starts to drive a compassion, an empathy, you know, and that's not necessarily a sympathy. And so in our house, we really talk about the difference. Like, no, I don't need to feel sorry for you. I just need to look at things through your eyes to see how you're dealing with whatever circumstances is you're finding yourself in.
And that's where grace really comes in. Like, we are, as a society, we have no grace for people anymore. We have completely lost that idea of golly, man, people mess up. I mean, if you don't know that, look in the mirror. You mess up. We have to learn to have grace for one another. Like, we have to realize that not everyone is perfect. People make mistakes. Just like you're saying, we have to look, put yourself in their shoes. And it's so easy to say, oh, I would have reacted this way, or I would have done this different. But you have no idea unless you've been in that situation before. You know, we have to learn that grace. Like, we have to give grace to people, because if we don't, when we mess up, we're going to want people to give us grace. Like, we're going to want that. So why wouldn't we want that? Like, give that to other people?
The immature man is quick to brag on himself, applaud himself, pat himself on the back. And he's also quick to take away from the guy who just, you know, performed well, or you know, that he finds somewhat competitive, or he's trying to measure against. He's quick to shortchange that guy. Oh, you know, he's not that good, you know, that kind of thing. So he takes away, and the flip side of that is that when somebody is struggling, they just beat him down more. And man, that's the master of immaturity right there. That's the master. Like, you know, if I'm going to be a true leader, if I'm going to be a true man, and I see somebody who's been kicked, all right, my job is not to destroy them, especially if they're on my team. You know, my job is to say, hey, you know, I need the best of you. Let's
Yeah.
go. Let's look at what you did that was right, that was good. Let's compliment it. Let's build it. And then where you struggled, let's see what we need to do to teach you to be more coachable and teachable. So that's a big point there of actually looking at things through another person's eyes and what they need in the moment to be built.
Yep. And we've talked about this before. The idea of, man, if you want to be mature and grow in your manhood, like, we gotta stop freaking being so serious all the time. Like, we have to learn to laugh at yourself. Like, have a little humility. Like, you're not all that and then some. Like, I say all the time, I take my profession very serious. I love what I do. I don't take myself too serious, so I know I mess up.
Oh, yeah.
And man, if we want to mature and grow in who we are as a man, we have to lighten up a little bit. We have to realize, again, you're not all that. Like, you do need other people in your life. We need to learn to laugh at ourselves. Laugh at some of your mistakes. Again, not making light of them in some regards. Like,
we're not dismissing them.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I don't want to dismiss it.
Exactly.
Like, I screwed up. You know?
But man, like, laugh at yourself and be like, all right, I'm going to get better, and I'm going to try and fix this problem that I have. Again, we just stop being so serious.
Yeah. You know, when I first started teaching, I taught science, and a lot of the science that I taught had a lot of math in it. And I love science, but math was not exactly my strong point. And so I would be nervous before teaching physics lessons about, like, okay, am I going to get this math problem right? Am I going to get it right? And I finally I wrapped my head around the idea, and I had a teacher who was kind of a mentor to me, a good friend of mine, and he was like, just chill.
Yeah.
Just chill. Go out there and work the problem right in front of them. Mm-hmm. And so I did, man. I started, I did not work that problem out beforehand, and I started practicing screwing up in front of my class.
Yeah.
Now, again, there's incompetency, right? So, but the idea that, hey, you know what? You throw me a problem, kids, and let's see what we can do to try to solve it together. And when I fumble all over myself, them seeing me fumble and try to recover is just as important as the math lesson that we were trying to get through. And that gave me so much more credibility, but it gave me so much more confidence in knowing that, hey, these kids appreciate that I'm being real and I'm not hiding behind an insecurity. So, you know, I say, like, there are so many of us guys that are so afraid to make these mistakes and then hide from it. It's like, you know what, just get out there, just start living, and we're gonna screw up, and like you said, you know, learn to laugh at yourself. That doesn't mean we don't own it. We still own it.
Absolutely.
But we say, hey, I'm gonna learn from it. So part of the growing into being more mature. All right, let's start to wrap some things up here. You know, there's in 1 Corinthians, there is a scripture here that really kind of points this out. In 1 Corinthians 14:20, it says, brothers, do not be children in your thinking. Be infants in evil, but in your thinking be mature. And so we're being called out here to seek maturity, even though maturity sometimes seems to cast fun aside, like the immediate fix of fun. And so as Christians and as men and as leaders, we are not saying no fun. We're saying put fun in its proper place. Be the leader first. Work for, like, you're all building a legacy. Whether you like it or not, you're all building a legacy. What are you leaving behind? Is it something that your kids are going to be built from and grow from, or is it something that's going to knock your kids down?
Right.
You know, so a big point there.
Yeah, I mean, I know in other parts of 1 Corinthians it talks about, like, boys will do boy things, you know, boyish things, and just this list that we're looking at, man, if you were to take away your wife and your kids, how many of these things would you fall into? You know, I feel like, you know, an immature man is so easy to judge other people and not laugh at themselves. So easy to say whatever comes to their mind. And you know, again, if you're immature, you're going to do immature things. And we need to learn as men, as strong dads, as strong men, that as we grow and develop and mature, like, we need to realize that these are things that's what's going to separate us from immature people.
Right. And, you know, we can laugh and joke about, well, you know, it's kind of fun to be a playboy. And I think it comes back to, well, why should we not be? And I think it's that whole idea of The playboy is trained again, and we talk about this frequently in our show. He's pleasing his fleshly desires, right? Yeah. He's going after whatever makes him feel good in that moment, but it comes at that cost. And so one of the big costs is that it's just sinful in the eyes of God. And just calling it what it is, we can say how much it hurts our kids and our wife and our family, but it ultimately is damning to God in the sense of him going, wait, I made you better than this. Yeah. I made you better than this. Sure. And you're not at all working up to the capabilities that I made you for. So I think that that's a big point of how it's just sinful in the eyes of God.
Right. And again, it's we're not saying you can't have fun.
Yeah.
Like it quite the opposite. Like my fun now looks a lot different than it did pre-kids, pre-marriage. My fun looks a lot different. Yeah, I mean, sure, would it have been, this past weekend just as easy to go off by myself and play golf and do my own thing? Absolutely. But to me, that's not my fun now is doing stuff with Jenny, with my kids. Like that's the fun that I enjoy now.
Yeah.
So again, it's just that idea of learning and growing and developing in who you are as a man. Like fun's going to look a little different. Yeah. Again, not to say we can't have fun by yourself. We would never say that. I mean, there's time and place for that. Again, going back to what is it going to cost though?
Yeah. Yeah, and you just redefine your fun. Like you said before, when my fun is all me motivated, it excludes the family. And now, you look for fun is doing stuff that includes the family. And you get a contentment knowing that you're doing something to build the legacy in a positive direction rather than a negative direction. So at the end of the day, it's time to grow up, man. It's time to grow up. It's time to put your big boy pants on and let's get this done. And again, if you struggle in any of these areas, don't spend a lot of time beating yourself up.
Yep.
Recognize it. If you're a guy who's been accused of being selfish, narcissistic, you would like to withdraw from the family, it's time to wake up because the cost of this is going to be big. It's going to be big to you and it's going to be big to your kids. And I'm not just talking about whether you're going to give them a bad day. I'm talking about the generational impact that this has in terms of how your kids and your wife handle relationships down the road. So ultimately the impact is with you and God for eternity. So it's time to grow up, man. It's time to get it done.
Yeah, gotta put your big boy pants on, right?
Let's go, strap it in.
For sure. Right. I mean, as we definitely close the show up, some things we would love for you guys to kind of think about in this upcoming week is take some time and really evaluate where do you find yourself, maybe not in all aspects of your life, but when it comes to your maturity, where do you find yourself? Do you find yourself falling more into boyhood and kind of immature behaviors, or do you feel like you have kind of stepped into, I'm a mature man? And I think, if we looked at all 25 of these lists, I'm sure we would all fall short on quite a few of them. Just that we have to, if you're not sure, ask somebody, ask your wife.
Do I have to?
I mean, you don't have to.
Well, I think that's a great challenge. Like one of the things that I have come into our office all the time is when I'm talking to a couple and I ask them how many kids they have. I can't even tell you how many times I'll hear them say something like, well, we have 3 kids, but if you count him, we have 4. Yeah. What? Yeah. Okay. And that's not a slam on her. She's telling you exactly what she thinks about him in terms of his maturity.
Yeah.
And to laugh that off is just missing the whole point. Yeah. Okay. And so I think that's a great thing you talk about. Ask your wife.
Yeah.
All right. If she feels like she's raising a bunch of kids and you're one of them, we might have a problem here.
Yeah.
All right. One of the things too in this challenge is if you're like, well, I don't know, what is this about for me? Am I being selfish? Am I being immature? Am I being a boy? Look at the fruit. I always try to teach that. Like if I meet somebody in a one-off situation, it's hard for me to actually make a great evaluation other than my first impact that I had with them. But when I start to learn more about them and I look at the fruit of their life, okay? And so it's really important that you look at the fruit of your own life. If you look back behind you, are you in relationship wreckage? Are your kids distant from you? Are you from job to job? If that is the kind of fruit you're producing, it's time to look in the mirror. I mean, I'm just trying to be straight up with you. It's time to look in the mirror and go, ooh, the fruit comes from the root. And if the root's not good, if it's not tapped into something good, you're not going to produce very good fruit.
Right.
And that's really, a way that we learn to measure how a person's doing in life. Look at the fruit of their labor, not a one-off encounter.
Right. And don't ever think that it's too late. Like if you feel that you have missed the mark big time on this, and there's separation between you and your wife, you and your spouse, man, it's never too late we would never advocate for anyone throwing their hands up and I'm too far into this. Like, man, you gotta seek help. You gotta do some self-evaluation and realize that, again, you've messed up here, and take some fault. You are the biggest sinner in this. So take some responsibility for that. Again, that if you can do that, you're already on the road to finding maturity.
Yeah, great point. Okay, we're going to wrap it up. So we want to say thank you to our sponsors. We want to thank Mansfield Insurance Agency, as well as Kreimer's The Beer House, for all of the support that they continue, especially during this COVID time that we continue to find ourselves in. We want to thank those guys for their support. We also want to put out the information of Rock Solid Families is out there to help men and women in all of these situations, your families. And so for anything that you have, if you're a guy out there and you're hearing some of the things we're talking about, feel free to reach out and contact me. Our number here is 812-576-7625. Also, you can get us at rocksolidfamilies.org. And you can contact us that way. And I don't even care if you live in California or where you live, okay? Yeah. Reach out. There's all kinds of ways for us to communicate through Zoom or telephone or in person. It doesn't matter. Let's do something to start growing up and understanding the importance that is to our family. All right, what are you going to do, dude?
Definitely appreciate all you listeners out there. Keep tuning in. We'll keep putting content out there. Hopefully you guys get something out of it, and go out there and be some strong dads.
Hey, this is Merle Hutchinson from Strong Dads. Strong Dads wants to thank Mansfield Insurance Agency in Bright, Indiana for sponsoring today's Strong Dads podcast. Established in 1981, the Mansfield Insurance Agency has been dedicated to the individuals and businesses in Bright, Indiana, serving clients throughout Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky.